Hello everyone, it's B Watches here. Wanted to have a discussion about The Boys. The Boys has graced our screens and it's shocked quite a lot of us. It's not really the typical light-hearted superhero show, and it's definitely been a surprise hit. I mean, it's even more now successful than almost every Marvel superhero show on Netflix. So this, to say it's done well, is an understatement. But did you actually know that The Boys that we see today may have never been made? The boys we see today may have never been made, guys. I mean, that's actually not hard to believe looking at the type of show that it is. But let's talk about the series. I mean, before we can actually talk about the series, we need to go back to where it all originated. So The Boys is actually based on a comic book written by Gareth Ennis. And Gareth Ennis is actually known for working on quite a lot of darker comics like The Punisher, The Preacher, shows that are very successful today, and also comics that are quite successful in the DC. So I know it sounds hard to believe, but The Boys originally was a hard fail. It was originally published by Wildstorm, which was a part of DC. And although DC isn't a stranger to violent anti-heroes like The Punisher was a little bit different because, number one, he appeared alongside Spider-Man, who was already very successful. So you had a good superhero propping him up in a way, so it was more acceptable. So The Punisher, although he's a bad guy, in your mind you can make some allowances for him because he only kills evil, bad people. And also, he never portrays himself to be a good guy or to be a superhero. So it was seen as more acceptable. The Boys, however, if you look at the show, the majority of the heroes on the show are anti-heroes. So you don't have a Wonder Woman or a Batman in the show to prop them up. You don't have any of that. The majority of the cast, the majority of the superheroes are corrupted. They would leave a baby burning in a fire if they could get away with it. Do you know what I mean? Well, but the DC, most of them, they would risk their lives to save the world. And these type of superheroes, they are not the same kind of category. So although there were 6 issues created the very first time, DC just couldn't handle the anti-superhero tone. So DC dropped The Boys, and it was dropped very quickly. Once The Boys were actually dropped from DC, what actually happened was Dynamite picked them up, and Dynamite allowed them to have more freedom. And so they were free to do all of that, all the violence you see, some of the really, really controversial subjects that they've got within the comic. And as I mentioned, it's not like DC or like Marvel. They weren't afraid to have sex in their comics. They weren't afraid to have violence in their comics because they do have The Preacher, they do have The Punisher. But Ennis had a vision. He didn't want The Boys to be on the same level. He wanted it to have more violence, more sex. He wanted it to be more graphic, and they weren't comfortable with that. As I said, the DC were just about comfortable with the level of violence with The Punisher, and that's about it. So in a way, by DC cancelling them, they did The Boys a favour. And Ennis actually mentioned this. He actually said that he felt that the comic benefited when they were cancelled by DC, and when Dynamite picked them up, they were able to do a lot more. So The Boys have come a long way from 2006, 2007, when they were first introduced to DC, and they were cancelled and then picked up again by Dynamite, and now they've got an amazing show on Amazon Prime. So they've done really well, and the good thing is that we should have more seasons to come. They have announced that season 3 is going to be coming, and I'm not surprised because they have done well. They definitely deserve a season 3. But thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget to comment below. I'd love it if you could like and also subscribe for more videos. This is quite a new channel, guys, so more videos will